Well, thank you so much for joining me. If you could take a minute and introduce yourself to campus and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what brought you to USD.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. My name is Hannah Haksgaard. I'm in my 10th year here as a law professor at the Knudson School of Law. I grew up in Yankton and am just thrilled to be kind of in my home state, getting to teach and write and do service at this university.
Great. So talk to us a little bit about teaching. You're recognized on and off campus for being an exceptional teacher. So what inspires you to teach? What drives you in your teaching?
Yeah, I love teaching. I remember being in 5th grade and Mrs. Cookta was my teacher and she was just great. And I had this moment where I thought, that's what I want to do. Now, I'm probably not equipped to be a 5th grade teacher, but I love teaching the graduate students at the law school. And I think for me, there's a few things that stand out is I think that a good teacher encourages people to do their best. And even if our best isn't always perfect, what I hope I can do is encourage students to keep pushing themselves and doing better. And I think that's one of the big things that drives me. I also love at the law school level that I get to teach most students more than one time. So I have this amazing opportunity to meet them when they're brand new, they come in the building, they're just learning what to do. And I see them develop over 3 years and really turn into professionals. And that means a lot to me.
Yeah, that's great. How do you engage your students maybe in some research that you might be involved in?
Yeah, I use students all over the place for research. And one of the cool things about being at this university is I've used both undergraduate and of course law students for my research. So I've had undergraduates who listen to transcripts. I've had undergraduates who actually know more about data than me, who've made charts and done data analysis for my research. And that's really cool that I can call a professor across campus and say, hey, I need somebody smart who knows how to use Excel, and I can get that. At the law school, a lot of my students who work with me do kind of the type of research that I tend to do, which is a lot more legal analysis, deep dives into legal issues, but where they really get to dive into something specific.
Yeah, great. And a product of some of that research is a recent book that you published. Tell us about that book.
Yeah, so I have this book out, which it was really 3 years of my life was working on this book.
Yeah.
And it was a great project for me. So a few years ago, not too long after I came to USD, I got invited to write an article about rural lawyers. And I wrote this article thinking I would write one article and that would be that. And as soon as I wrote it, I had a bunch of research questions that I wanted to pursue, which is a sign of it's a really fruitful area. Mm-hmm. And so South Dakota has this really cool program that is an incentive program for rural lawyers. And as we approached that 10-year anniversary of the program, I said to my husband and the dean, I want to do a book. And they both said yes. And so we spent 3 years and we got a book out of it.
Wonderful. And you have a map there. Tell us about that map.
I do. So this map is a map of all the lawyers who've been in this program in the first 10 years. Uh-huh. And for the research, one of the really important things that I wanted to do was go out and visit these lawyers in their rural communities and see what they're doing. So all of these red dots are trips that we took. So you can see we went all over the state. Got to see not all of them are alums, but a lot of alums, some of my former students, and got to go see them in their rural communities where they are serving legal needs as new rural lawyers. And it was pretty cool to see the state in this way.
That's fantastic. Can you think of one fun story or one story that really stands out in all that travel?
There was so much fun stuff, but I think one of the cute small town things that happened to us a couple of times is that law enforcement stopped us to be like, why are you here? And my husband and I went on these trips together because my husband took photos for the books. And so actually when we were in Oneida, he's walking around town getting some pictures and a cop stops him and says, what are you doing? Because we clearly don't belong here, right? And so my husband explained, and then the cop actually walked him into the courthouse and showed him the new dome that they had just renovated, and we got this awesome picture that ended up on the cover of the book, which we had no idea about, but it was perfect.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Small town life.
Yeah, yeah. Fantastic. That's great. What were some of the other goals with the publishing of your book?
Yeah, so I think I had a couple of goals with it. Is I really wanted to preserve this unique piece of history. There's never before been a program where we helped lawyers go into rural communities. And I actually just wanted to capture this moment in history of understanding what it's like to be a new rural lawyer. But the other thing I wanted to do was study really whether or not South Dakota's program was successful and whether other states should be replicating what we're doing. One of the big privileges of writing this book is I've been doing a lot of talks to lawyers in other states, telling them about South Dakota's program and saying, here's all the good things that happened, here's why you might want to consider doing something. And being able to have that evidence to go out and tell other states that South Dakota did something awesome, that's pretty cool.
Very nice. So if you were talking to a student who is thinking about potentially going into law school, what would you tell them about the University of South Dakota's law school and why they might thrive or find their home here?
Yeah, I think there's two things that stand out about the law school at South Dakota. I think one is if you want to be a lawyer in South Dakota, you get amazing connections while you're in school here. We have a small faculty. We also have tight connections with bar memberships. And so I think that having those connections are really important and sets you up for success. I think the other thing that makes us special is size. We are small compared to most law schools, but that's a strength for us because it makes it so that I get to know the students get to know me. They also graduate knowing each other really well, and they graduate into a field where they're going to be colleagues across the whole state and across the country too, right? But they get to be colleagues the rest of their careers.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I learned a ton today. This was a lot of fun. Where can the rest of campus learn more about you?
Well, my faculty profile, of course, has information on me. I think that my book is out there, pretty easy to find, and that would be the best place to find me.
All right. Well, thanks again.
Thank you so much.
As always, go Yotes.
Yep.